Okay, so we're up to Mishlei 16:21, and I actually want to, because it's been actually it hasn't been a while, but for all of us, but it's been a while for some of us. I just want to review the last pasukim that we did, just to rev up into it, just the last few. So the last ones we did, I think we're on a new topic now because we were on a topic of arrogance for a while. Yeah. So last time we did 1620, Maskil al Davar Yimtza Tov. One who applies intelligence to a matter will find good. Uboteach b'Hashem ashrav, and one who trusts in Hashem is praiseworthy or happy. Okay, so then we got today, Lachacham Lev Yikare Navon, Umesek Safasaim Yosif Lekach. Okay, not the easiest pasuk to translate. First half is, I guess, kind of easy. What do you think? Anyone want to take it? Yeah.
to the wise one.
Yep. To the wise one.
Um,
The Chacham Lev.
wise of heart, the wise of heart.
Wise of heart.
He is called under one with understanding,
Yeah,
I guess.
he is called. I'm just going to go ahead and use this here, but I think your translation is good. He's called Navon, a person of understanding. And I think also, I don't know if this is if we should preserve the awkwardness of the Hebrew, but to the wise of heart, he is called Navon.
Hmm.
I would be inclined to say the wise of heart is called Navon. Like, I don't know, Yikare La is a little weird. But yeah, or maybe
Yeah.
keep it like that. To the wise of heart, he is called Navon. Yeah, it sounds a little weird either way. Okay, Umesek Safasaim Yosif Lakach.
Okay. I'm guessing sweet of lips.
Yeah, and so I think it's a good question. We'll have to see what the English does with this. I would translate it as sweetness of lips, but you're going to be in good company in a second. I think Mesek is sweetness of lips. Yosif Lakach.
Is it and to sweetness of lips is added like acquirings or something like that?
So I
Uh,
think lekach is another weird word in Mishlei specifically. Let me just see. So I would translate lekach and Mishlei as learning, but let's see if that is what it is. Learning or teaching, yeah. Instruction, teaching. Yeah, literally means gain, but in Mishlei it is used as instruction. So
also, like I'm wondering if the lamed is going on both
oh,
the
the first lamed,
beginning.
la.
Yeah, is that also kind of like
Yeah, that
going
that that that's
into
plausible. So I'll include it in brackets here. To the sweetness of lips, Yosef lekach. Um, he will increase learning. Okay, so very difficult to translate here. So Sadigon does something, I think that makes it easier. So Sadigon translates metek as va'asher diburo matok. So he says metek is to the one whose lips are sweet. Oh, sorry, whose speech is sweet. Whose speech is sweet. Okay, how did you translate it? Someone with sweet lips or something like that?
of speech, maybe?
Yeah, sweet of speech. Yeah, right. So that's kind of how he's taking it. Okay. And then Kafex explains Vitevas umetek kilu nikuda vav shuruka nem nacha tav petucha. So he's reading it as if it says, instead of metek, he's reading it as if it said uh umtak. Okay. As if it's written um um umatak. Okay. So I don't know if that's like if Kafka is saying that Sadigon actually is vocalizing the Hebrew differently, or if he's proposing an interpretation and then like, you know, playing fast and loose with the vowels. I don't really know. Okay, now the Targum here was so surprising to me that I actually had to check and make sure that I got it right, but I think I did. So if anyone listens to this and finds that I got it wrong, let me know. So the first part's the same. Hakim liba yiskare suklasana. So the wise of heart is called understanding. Okay, suklasana is just the Aramaic for understanding. Then he says udachalian sif vase, and I think I would translate it as a one with fearful lips. Okay, Mosif Ulfana will increase learning. Okay, now, I guess increases learning. Now, I don't know, like, if we're supposed to take this as an interpretation. of sweet, which seems difficult, or if there's some other word for metek that has something to do with fear. Let's just see what the BDB says. I don't think there is, because I think matok is just sweet. Yeah, sweetness. Okay. And then I even was trying to think about and I asked ChatGPT also of like, so we've been side note, I've spent the whole day looking into Dead Sea Scroll stuff. Okay, that was just my whoopsie. Spent the whole day doing that today. And was also reviewing a lot of stuff about Masoretic texts. And so I was looking into I checked out the Septuagint, which we don't have the full version of, and it says sweetness. And I checked out the Samaritan Torah, which also has sweetness. We don't have the Syriac Torah for Mishlei, at least Tanakh for Mishlei. I don't know if it exists. And all of them seem to say sweet. So I don't know of any like textual variant. Let me just check one more place, even though I don't think he's going to have it. The Minchas Shai, who sometimes has variants. No, he doesn't have anything here. Yeah, so like this is the type of thing where I would say like maybe the Targum was working with a Hebrew version that did not say metek, and that's why he translated as fear. But I was trying to think like what could it be that is similar to metek, and I can't think of anything like that. So I don't know. So we'll just treat it as like a weird translation here. Okay. So Art Scroll says the wise of heart will be called an understanding person. So that's kind of how I wanted to translate it. And one whose speech is sweet will gain learning. Okay, so that is like Sadigon. Refer says the wise of heart shall become known as a man of discernment, while the sweetness of lips increases learning. So he keeps it as a noun. Sweetness of lips. Alter says the wise of heart will be called discerning, and sweet speech will increase instruction. Okay, so I think those are all slightly different. I'm going to actually delete the R scroll because it's similar enough to ours. I'm just going to copy and paste ours here. So we call Navon an understanding person. Understanding person. Okay, and I'm just going to say Chacham Lev here. Chacham Lev, wise of heart. Okay. And then, yeah, okay, so let's delete the art scroll and let's keep this here. And now let's just copy and paste all these into the chat. Hopefully this fits. Yeah, it does. Wondrous. Yes, Mom.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I jumped the gun, but as soon as I heard sweet, I thought of, one of my first associations when I first became Jewish was the honey and the sweetness, and when, the letters. And so that was something that I'm interested in exploring, that adjective.
Yeah. Okay, so what are the questions and problems? And I think because there's only 3 of us, you don't have to raise your hand, just like say stuff. I think it's easier. Yeah.
One question I have is why is it Chacham Lev and not just Chacham, or like what is a Chacham Lev?
Okay, right. So what does Chacham Lev mean in this context? Why not just Chacham? Now, I do want to point out, let's just do a quick search here. And I think your question is still valid. I just want to just contextualize it here. Chacham Lev is definitely used in Torah a lot. But let's see how many times it is used in Mishlei. Just waiting for the results. Okay, we've got Chacham Lev. Looks like in Torah. Oh wow, it's all in Sefer Shemos. That's very strange. So in Shemos, it's used in Shemos 8 times. Yeah, 8 times. Okay, then in Mishlei, we've got 10:8 Chacham Lev Yikach mitzvos. Oh, interesting. It also associates it with taking. A Chacham Lev takes mitzvos. And a fool of the lips will become wearied. 10:13 is not that. 11:29 Ocher beso yinchal ruach ve'eved evil lachacham lev. So one who corrupts his house will inherit wind, but a foolish servant, a fool is a servant to a chacham lev. Okay, then 15:7. No, that's different. Then we got our pasuk. And so it's not such a common term, is what I'm saying here. Yeah. All right. So that's a good question. I just wanted to contextualize it there. All right.
I was wondering what it means that he'll be called a Navon. Like
Yeah.
who will call him that,
Okay, good.
and why does that matter?
What does it mean that he will be called a Navon? A Navon. Um, who, yeah, who will call him that? Why does it matter? And then I'm also gonna just tack onto here, like, would be called a Navon imply that he's not really a Navon and is just considered that by others? Or does it mean, not only will he be a Navon, but he will also be recognized as a Navon? I feel like those are two possibilities here.
I
Yeah.
wanted to also ask what wise of heart meant and what the opposite of wise of heart. Is it
Yeah. Okay, so
is
that's
it
the first
ignorant?
question.
What's
What does
what's the
wise
opposite
of
of
heart
wise? Yeah.
mean? Okay, yeah. And then what is the opposite? Yeah, do we have an opposite in our pasuk? No, we don't, right? So that's a good question in general about the opposites, which is what are the opposites here? All right, the two halves don't seem to be opposites. So what are the unstated opposites? Yeah. Actually, let me just read it. Yeah, Isaiah?
Yeah. So why would it seems weird to me that sweetness of lips would increase learning. Like to me, it sounds like a bad thing. Sweetness of lips,
Yeah.
like
Like smooth
someone who's like
talking?
a sweet talker. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess like, what's that relationship?
Okay, so let's break that down into two questions here. So what is meant by the quality of sweetness of lips? Again, I'll put in parentheses here. Sounds like a bad thing, like sweet talking. Okay. And then how does this quality result in an increase of learning? I actually do want to say learning or teaching, because I think that's what the dictionary said, of learning or teaching. Yeah.
To ask like what kind of learning, what that means in
Yeah.
this.
Right. That's a good question. Also, so what does lekach, learning or teaching, mean in this context? What kind of learning or teaching? And then I also just want to see here in Mishlei, also, I know it is used in Mishlei. I just want to see how often. 6 times? Yeah. So yeah, we've got this is in the intro to Mishlei, Yishma Chacham Yosef Lekach. So this is talking about the benefits of Mishlei. A Chacham will hear and increase his learning. The Navon Tachbulas Yikne, and a Navon will acquire strategies. And then here's another one that I feel like people know from Shul. Ki lekach tov nasati lechem torasi al ta'azovu. I have given you a good teaching. My Torah you shall not abandon. Okay, then we've got hitatu barov. Oh, no, that's a different one. Tain l'chacham v'yachkam od hoda l'tzadik v'yosef lakach. Give to the chacham and he will become wiser. Convey knowledge to the tzaddik and he will increase his learning. Okay, then we've got our pasuk, and then we have looks like in two pasuk, and we also have Lev chacham yaskil pihu v'al sfasav yosef lakach. That looks very similar to the one we're doing right now. The heart of a wise person will make his mouth intelligent, and on his lips he will increase learning. Yeah, okay, fine.
There's something about this also.
No, go ahead,
ahead.
Tamara.
Yeah,
I was
go
gonna say
okay.
there's a lot of Yosef Lekach. That's like most
Yeah.
of the examples.
right.
And I wonder if that itself is a unit that means something in Mishlei.
Yeah, that's actually a good question here. Okay, so what does lekach mean? Actually, what does lekach or increase / gain lekach mean in this context? What kind of learning teaching? Why is this usually associated with increase?
So my question sort of was in this area. Is instruction not the same as learning, or is it the same as like I think of one as from the teacher's point of view and the other one from the student's point of view.
Right. Yeah, you could say instruction instead of teaching. I'm just using teaching here to simplify it, to keep it as two, but you can
Well,
use instruction.
because I was looking at the altars, your translation
Yeah.
there will increase instruction. So instruction and learning and teaching are the same.
Well, instruction and teaching are the same. Learning
Or
is, yeah.
right. Okay. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah. Okay.
To add to question
Yeah.
2.
Mhm.
So what exactly is a Navon and how is it different than a Chacham Lev?
Okay. So what is a Navon in this context, and then how is it different from a Chacham Lev?
Question I have is,
Yeah.
do you have any question? No. Is this an always true pasuk? Is this a can be true, usually true? How definitive is this
Okay,
statement?
right. So that's a good way to put it. How definitive is this statement? Uh, is it always true, mostly true, or I guess sorry, true most of the time, equal probability, or in certain cases? Yeah.
I'll just put it also the question, who's the audience?
Yeah. Who is the audience? And then I'll put the question, what is the practical application? I also want to say, what's the relationship between the two halves? Even though we already asked the opposite question, let's say, I'm just going to make that the broader question. What is the relationship between the two halves? Okay, so I'm going to say the two halves don't seem to be opposites. And yeah, so I'm going to say, moreover, since the two halves don't seem to be opposites, what are the unstated opposites? And just to explain why we asked that question, even though we do this a lot, is the reason why Shlomo wrote Mishlei with two opposites is because it's easier to clarify something, to understand something when you see the opposite, and secondly, so you know the good decision and the bad decision. So what we take from that is any pasuk that only has one side, like only good or only bad, we infer what the opposite is for the sake of our own clarity and our own application.
Something that's strange to me about this pasuk,
yeah,
is like Chacham Lev and Mesek Sifasayim seem to me to be in the realm of like something emotional or like soft skills, that world. But it's leading to something that seems like purely intellectual, like more learning and being a Navon, which is something to me that's like an intellectual capacity related to that. So it's surprising. I guess I'm just surprised about this pasuk. Like, what's the relation? Those relationships are weird. Yeah.
I hear. I mean, it's not weird in the sense that it sounds impossible, right? Meaning, like, we can intuitively sense that our speech and our emotions can affect our learning development. But you're just saying, like, the pairing is not, like, it's not obvious what the call connection is. Yeah. One question we did not ask is, and which again does not need to be asked necessarily, but under, where does it say lips? What is meant by the sweetness of lips? I'll say, additionally, oops, what happened here? Additionally, can we explain why it says lips specifically as opposed to another, part of the mouth? Right. So instead of tongue, instead of throat, instead of mouth.
I'm not sure if we asked this or not, but how does the second half work? Like, how will he increase teaching based off of sweetness of lips?
No, we did. Yeah. How does this quality result in an increase of teaching and learning? Yeah. I'll just make it clear here. How does this quality of sweetness of lips? Okay. I feel like those are the main questions. So let's put these into the chat. I saw Ariel popping in and out. I don't know if he's like having connection difficulties, but I might have to share this with him later if he comes back in again. Okay.
Also, just to ask what the subject is.
Yeah,
because I feel like it could be very vague.
Yeah.
And many different things.
This is a time when we should ask that. Let's see if I can fit it. Okay. What is the subject of this pasuk? Okay. And I'll type this here. What is the subject of this pasuk? Okay. All right, let's take our thinking minute here. I'm just going to mute you, Mom. I am going to ask this other question also, which I don't know if this is a question on the pasuk or a lack in us. How are we supposed to read the syntactically awkward first half with the lamed, with the lamed, the definite article, okay, meaning like the la, okay, and the passive will be called. Okay, like I just don't feel like, I feel like all these translations had to like, kind of mess with that. And I don't know, again, that would just be our lack of knowledge of Hebrew. Oh, I want to add another question also to Isaiah's question, which is, or actually, no, maybe this is a question on, hold on. Yeah, I'm going to add this as a separate question is, does the effect in the first half happen automatically, or is it a process? Okay, meaning, is there a period of time in which the chacham lev is called a chacham lev, and not a navon, and the pasuk is telling us that this quality will eventually make him be called a navon? Okay, or is this saying that every that every chacham lev is called a navon? And it sounds like I'm asking the same question that Isaiah asked, but I'm not, because Isaiah's question is, how definitive is this? I'm asking, what is it saying? So in other words, you can have a case where, according to either of my interpretations, it could be true all the time, some of the time, or whatever, but I'm asking a more fundamental, just reading question.
I have a question also.
Yeah.
Let's see, how shall I ask this? Is there where's the how of how we do this? I mean, it says about the method of how to get to where we're supposed to get to.
Okay, so I'll tack that on to the practical application. How are
we
practically supposed to implement this? Okay.
I'm just getting confused for some reason about the grammar in the our translation of the second half. When we said he will increase learning, we mean the person who has sweetness of lips.
Yeah, let me just actually let me just clarify this here. Okay, so let's go with just one second. So translation A. Let's do this. Okay, so the chacham lev will be called navon, translation, and sweetness of lips will increase learning or teaching. Okay, so that is that's like alter. That's taking the sweetness of lips as a noun, and then the other way to take it is and one whose lips are sweet will increase learning and teaching. Now, I know that clarifies it, but did that address your question, Ayala, or you have a different question?
Yeah, I was confused about what the he was doing. I was wondering if it was possible that it's referring back to someone in the first half or no.
Let's see.
Like Yosef that he will add.
Oh, meaning the chacham, the navon will add to the person who has sweet lips?
I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, I also don't know enough grammar to this is an embarrassing thing. I don't know what the difference is between Yosef and Yosef and what that would be here. So I'm just going to kind of rely on what we've got in the translation here. Okay. Ariel, feel free. I saw you popping in and out. I was waiting until you were stable. But I'll say if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask for clarification questions. But I'll just copy and paste the translation into the chat again in case we lose it. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you. I just had no service.
Okay, I figured that was the case. Yeah. Okay, Isaiah, what's your idea here?
So I think maybe Isaiah also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep forgetting. Yeah.
No fair. I'm probably gonna have to leave soon also, but I was gonna say that this is a very basic idea, but I was thinking that the is this a valid translation? I think so. Well, actually, I was taking chacham lev to possibly mean emotional intelligence, which I'm not sure if that's.
Yeah, I also don't know if that's valid. It's as good of a guess as any. Yeah.
So in that case, then it's the person is a chacham, but they're also emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
And so that combination is what causes them to be recognized as a Navon.
Okay.
So, and then I was thinking also for the second half, I was taking it as teaching, which is like, I was thinking about like, I don't know, contemporary-ish, like rabbis who reach a lot of people, like people who know, like they have a certain way of speaking to people and that causes their teaching to spread.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the second half is talking about some rhetorical skill, okay, which enables enables the one who possesses knowledge to reach more people. And now this is where your question about what the subject is, I think, comes in would clarify then. So then the question is, yeah, how do we unify these two into one subject?
In this idea?
Yeah, in this idea, yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying that, well, okay, yeah, I guess to me, it's like there's like a havamina that the amount you know is the amount that you're able to convey.
Okay.
And on the contrary, it's really a combination of your knowledge and the way that you are, the way that you act with other people.
Okay.
It's not, I wasn't thinking like rhetorical skill exactly. I mean, yes, rhetorical skill, but not like just being a good writer, but like,
yeah, what are you can you give me an example of, because you said a way of talking, and so
yeah, I mean like do
you mean like oratorial skill?
I'm saying like being able to reach people, which I think is somewhat related to rhetorical skill, but I don't think it is rhetorical skill.
Right.
No, I think it's like being able to connect with people, being able to understand where they're coming from and explain your idea coming from there, that kind of thing.
Okay, so I think the thing that is that maybe the reason why that didn't register is because I feel like we have to be able to describe this quality as sweetness of lips, So
yeah,
like,
but I guess I think it's like a pleasant type of person to talk to.
Okay.
I think it's like a pleasantness of speech.
So about someone who is pleasant to talk to, and saying that person will be able to teach, to be a better teacher. Okay. And then just to say the havamina here. So the havamina is that your ability to influence, or not to influence, but to convey knowledge is correlated with how much knowledge you have, right? This is teaching you that the ultimate, I guess that the qualities which ultimately determine your ability to teach are not necessarily correlated to your knowledge, correlated with your knowledge, but with your emotional intelligence and your ability to get along with people in your see, I have to put it in terms of speech. I mean, I understand that you're trying to say it's like more, it's via your speech. I'll say, via the way you talk with them. Because I think it's still even too broad to say that like people enjoy talking to you. That might be an effect of that, but really it has to be in you. Either has to be in you or in your speech. I think those are linguistically, I think those are the two ways we can go.
Excuse me, can we also say that communication has to involve listening?
Yeah, we could say that, but that's not. I don't think the pasuk is talking about listening. I think it's talking about speaking. Because it says sweetness of lips, and if you wanted to say the ability to listen, it would be, openness of ears or something like that.
Or his, I don't know. There's something missing.
Tamara, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say that I think right, you're right, based on what it says from the pasuk, that it is not just like likable, like you're saying. It can't mean that because it's mesix of Asayim. But I don't know. I'm not sure if this is the right example, but I keep thinking of the Sir Lord Rabbi Jonathan Sachs.
Yeah, that is a good example. I don't even know what the pasuk means, but he's gonna be a good example no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know exactly, but I feel like there was it did have to do with how he spoke. It wasn't unrelated.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I do actually. I just had a realization. I think maybe Yosef means to add it. Means to. You know what? I just want to check this on ChatGPT and see if this will help here. So, in Mishlei, where we at 1621, it says, I'm gonna mute you because I keep hearing you. All right.
It's not.
It says Yosef lekach. What is the difference between Yosef and Yosef? I think Yosef is to add to someone else, or to add causative. Yeah. Yosef is in the he field causative form, which conveys the idea of causing or making something happen. In this context, it means to increase or to add to something, implying an action that actively contributes or enhances. Yosef, this is in the call form and generally means he adds or he continues. It is more straightforward and less causative than Yosef. Okay, usage in context. Yosef lekach is best understood as increases learning or adds insight. Here, Yosef emphasizes an active process of enhancing or building upon one's wisdom or understanding. Yosef, on the other hand, might appear in a simpler context where the meaning is more about the continuation or accumulation of an action without the explicit causative connotations. In other words, the implication of Yosef is causes increase. Might be in him, might be in others, whereas Yosef would mean he accumulates, I guess, maybe, or he like augments. Or maybe that sounds synonymous. Why Yosef here? The choice of Yosef reflects the Mishlei style emphasis on intentional, proactive pursuit. All right, that's an interpretation. Yeah, fine. Okay. Let's just think about this for a little bit more.
Tamar, also sorry, I thought everybody was finished talking. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Okay, so the other thing also that I think we need to address is it sounds like a big part of the idea here is that this person in reality is a chacham, but he is called a Navon. And I understand that, Tamar, that what you're doing is you're saying that if Tamar's still there, that like people will identify him as such, but I feel like there's a more that more basic question of like, is he or is he not a Navon? Like what's the relation between Chacham Lev and Navon?
So are you distinguishing between Chacham and Navon? Maybe I'm not being sensitive enough to the language.
Yeah, and maybe you can interpret the pasuk as though they're synonymous, and that the only because another like this. I think the simplest way to read the pasuk is that the chiddush is that he's called Navon when he's just a Chacham Lev. You could be reading it as Chacham Lev and Navon are synonymous, but be called is the chiddush. I just think to me that Navon and Chacham are so different, especially in Mishlei, where like they're routinely like separated as two different Mishlei archetypes, that I would not like an interpretation that like doesn't recognize the difference.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm gonna have to go, but thanks.
All right, sure. Okay, sure. So I'm gonna just list this as a question, and then I'm gonna go to Ariel next. All right. So the question is, what do we make of the Chacham Lev versus Navon distinction in this pasuk? Okay, so we'll leave this on the side and come back.
Can I try to comment on that?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So maybe I was wondering if you can say that, like, according to Tamar's idea, that this happens in two ways. First of all, or maybe once the person is like able to communicate well with people in a way that like shows people they care about them or whatever, the whole thing that Tamar is trying to describe.
Yeah.
That first of all, it's like their speech, the second half is saying, which is like what really has the effect. But not only that, they're also gonna, like, if they have this emotional intelligence, they're also gonna be like, they're gonna get a reputation for that, and kind of their reputation is gonna precede them in a way that, like, they'll be called a Navon even if they're just a Chacham or whatever, that like their reputation will be even greater than like the amount of knowledge that they possess, and that will be another thing which is helping them spread knowledge.
Okay, so I think that's a good approach. So if a person has this quality of emotional intelligence, combined with actual intelligence, then they'll get the reputation of a Navon, even if they haven't reached that level yet, because people will identify them as someone who is perfected, who possesses a high degree of intellectual perfection, and that will help them spread even more knowledge. Okay, yeah, and I do think that happens. Just want to think of an example of this. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to toot my own horn here. I think this is like whatever the reverse of a horn toot is, but everyone in this room right now knows that we come from a yeshiva where there are a lot of Nevonim, and I think that what I've found often happens is I think high school students often assume that I am more intellectually perfected than I actually am, even though I do know stuff, and I think because of the individual care and concern and attention I give to conveying that knowledge, I think it gives them the impression that I know more than I actually do. So even if I'm not a Navon, then I will be regarded as. I think it's a multiple factor thing. I also think that it's their first time being exposed to certain knowledge, but whatever. I think that's a thing that I found happens. And yeah, I can testify it does not correspond to the actuality. Okay, let's move on to a different approach. Yeah, Ariel.
Before I say my approach, I just wanted to ask a quick question.
Sure.
Why are we assuming this guy is a Chacham?
Because it says Chacham Leiv.
Well, it says Chacham Leiv, but I mean, why? I mean, isn't it just specific to him being a Chacham in a Leiv?
I mean, I'm assuming that Chacham Leiv is either synonymous with Chacham or is more perfected than a Chacham, but and I think that's where Tanakh often says that the Chacham resides.
Okay.
Yeah, it still is a question of why it calls him Chacham Leiv, but I think in other words, I would not say that it's possible for it to be a Chacham Leiv and not also a Chacham.
Right, I hear. Okay, fine. So I'm gonna. It's not a fully fledged idea. It's just a couple of thoughts that I had. And maybe you could say that the subject of this pasuk has to do with how to become a Navon.
Okay.
Because it says Yikarei Navon, he will be called a Navon, but that doesn't necessarily. I'm sorry, that doesn't necessarily mean he's a Navon at the moment. I think it's a pathway to becoming a Navon. And there are a couple of and the interesting thing is it's like the second half is not a contrast to the first half. It's almost like it has to be like an addition to the first half.
Right, so maybe part of that process.
Yeah, the interesting thing is whatever, but maybe you could say that Chacham Leiv just means. I'm not going to use the emotional intelligence, although it is a little tempting, but maybe say that he is a Chacham in how he uses his emotions. I'm translating Leiv here as it's like the Leiv. It's the it's not the mind. It's the it's the I guess the emotional part of the human being.
Yeah.
And in order to be a Navon, you have to either not only understand other people's emotions, and you also have to understand your own emotions and how it can express itself.
Okay, I'm going to do a different move here, which is I'm not going to say not only do you have to understand other people's emotions, because that sounds like Tamar's approach. I would say not only do you have to have intellectual knowledge, but you also have to have a certain level of perfection of your emotions.
Yeah, there's a book that I'm in the process of reading, almost finished. It's called Emotional Intelligence 2.0.
Oh, I think I read Emotional Intelligence 1.0. That was a popular book in like the 2000s.
Yeah, and you know there are like 4 areas of, I don't remember all 4. I'm like 50 pages in, but like the point is like one is like how you control your emotions and like how you deal with other people's emotions, you know.
Yeah.
But it really starts with yours. And yeah, and look, and once you understand your emotions, you'll naturally be able to, you know, understand other people and how they operate, and you suppress, well, not suppress, but you like take your emotions out of the picture such that you're able to understand the other person,
right?
You know. Right. And the second half is a metrics of a time. This is you know, I'm still having a little difficulty on why you need this.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe it just means like, okay, fine, now, you know, like you're able to control your emotions or like whatever it is. But now the question is, fine, like how are, like it's one thing to be aware of this, but in practice, can you actually do it? Like, I guess the metrics of a time means like the sweetness of lips. Like, it's not just that you need the awareness of it, but you also need to like actually practice it in like how you converse with people.
That's interesting.
I don't know.
It's a little weak. It down. But... Okay, yeah, no, I like the general approach. Hold on a second here. So the second half is saying something about how it's not enough to practice this in isolation, but you need to be able, you know, it needs to affect how you converse with people. My intuition here is saying, by the way, Ariel, that I think you've got 2 approaches like intertwined, because I'm hearing an idea about development as a Navon, and I'm hearing an idea about emotional intelligence and how you relate to other people. And it's possible that there's a unified idea between the 2, but I'm strongly sensing that there are 2 completely different ideas and I don't know if it's coming from, I don't know if you're feeling like you need to incorporate the emotional intelligence piece because that's the book you're reading, or because it's lingering from Tamar's idea. But I feel like the path to like finding an idea here is cut out the emotional intelligence and relating to other people for the first half, and like try to work on that on its own, and then maybe try working on the emotional intelligence people on its half, and do that on its own, and then we'll see if it merges or it's 2 different ideas.
I'm with you. Yeah, let's go. Let's do it. Good. Yeah, I just, you know, just
yeah. Because when you were talking about the first half, I thought of something as well, but I'm gonna hold off until I hear other people, and I also might have 2 ideas. Okay, let's go to Isaiah for now, and then we'll get these approaches on the table and then figure it out.
Okay. I hope my idea is different to other people's, or that it comes together, or I'm still working on it. But the way I'm thinking about it is that like someone who is a Chacham Lev, like I guess we're saying, like really, at least the way I'm thinking about it is like he understands himself, he knows his own heart, his emotions very well. So that person, that's the type of Chacham that gets the renown of being a Navon, of being someone who is like able to see things clearly and like really understand things. Like people view him as that type of person. I think like because it's like everyone has a recognition that it's really hard to like work on yourself in that kind of way, and so if you did it, like you've done something, it is an intellectual thing that you've done, and it's something that you've done like very deliberately, and it also like has to stem from, you have to have a certain amount of but like you have to have like ideas in order to do that. It's not possible to just like in a vacuum gain emotional intelligence without like rationality.
Yeah.
And so to someone who like is able to converse fluently and like well with other people, people open up to him in conversation, and he ends up gaining more ideas than someone who doesn't. So even if you're a person who is like smart but you don't know how to talk to people, you lose opportunities to like to increase your knowledge because you don't know how to like do the communication, which is like a facet of human like knowledge. Like that's part of how it's like spread. So I think like the overall subject of the pasuk is like the utility of like emotional intelligence in not it's I guess it's like I don't know exactly what it is. The thing that includes both emotional intelligence and soft skills in learning.
What's the phrase you keep on saying? Soft skills? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, isn't that like why am I saying that actually?
I've just never heard of that phrase. I'm not familiar with it.
Maybe I'm making it up.
That would be why I haven't
No, I've heard of it before.
Yeah? Okay. Maybe it doesn't mean what I think it means.
Look it up.
Interpersonal skills, maybe it's not really the right word.
Personal attributes that reflect how you work and interact with others. Okay, I've just never heard of this.
Yeah.
I guess I've heard of this as interpersonal skills, but
right. I guess I wasn't thinking of that because it's not like it's not to me. It's not what isn't involved here is like how you would solve conflicts with other people.
Right.
This is specifically like how you're able to use lashon.
Yeah, and that was actually what I was going to say is that not the same question I had on tomorrow's, but I feel like no matter what we say, this has to boil down to sweet lips, and we got to keep that in the forefront of our minds, you know. Yeah, which you were doing in your thing, yeah. Yeah, but I feel like if we're going to say the overall subject is, we can't say two things. You know, I mean, I know you're saying utility of blank and blank, but like I feel like when we ask the subject question, we really have to like merge the two. That's why we're asking it, you know. So I feel like we need a little bit more work on this. Okay, now I had an idea that was inspired by Ariel, and also one that was inspired by a comment that Ayala made. Let me just think for 1 second. I see Ayala's hand, but had to do with the reputation thing. All right, maybe Ayala, you tell me what you're gonna say, and then I'll come back to what I was gonna say.
Okay, just a very small thought, not a full idea. But on the second half, I was wondering, I also don't know if it's true. So a lot of disclaimers, but about the sweetness of lips will increase learning. So I wanted to go with learning and say that I wonder if it's possible that through your speech, you could kind of like dig yourself into holes in ideas and get yourself stuck somewhere, which like prevents you from actually increasing understanding. Because if you're like, I don't know, using strong language, whether that's like, I mean, either the opposite of sweet as like aggressive or just like extreme intense, then it could maybe like lock you in, as opposed to if you're like more easygoing and like, I don't know if that's a valid explanation of sweet, but I thought.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I mean, what I'm thinking of here is I always remember that Rav Pesach told us that when he was in yeshiva, then he had a chavrusa who would like shoot down Rav Pesach's ideas like, you know, very like, you know, like rapidly. And Rav Pesach said that like at first, you know, then he thought that meant that it was a bad idea, but then he realized that no, he has a strong intuition and he needs to like there's a certain phase in developing an idea where you have to like ignore the questions and just pursue the idea, you know, with disclaimers, like Ayala said, you know, just pursue the development of the idea on its own. And then oftentimes what will happen is the idea will emerge and that fully formed idea will be able to withhold the questions. And so I could see how if you were to, certainly with others, if you were to be overly harsh in your speech, it could stifle the increase of learning that would happen with the other person and therefore with yourself. I'm just going to write this down because this is good as an idea, no matter, you know, even if it doesn't work for the pasuk here, is there's a you know, if a person is overly critical in shooting down ideas that others are developing, this might inhibit the learning process and result in less learning for both of them. Right. I think that is a good step on its own. What was I going to say? Let me just start talking out the first half for 1 second here. So just to repeat, we have two possible meanings of L'chacham lev yikarei Navon. Either it means that he is not a chacham lev, and yet he will be called a Navon. Sorry, I said that wrong. He is only a chacham lev. He's only a chacham lev, and yet he will be called a Navon even though he's not a Navon. The other is what Ariel was saying, which is that will be called a Navon means he will become a Navon, and therefore he'll be called that. Okay. Oh, so I now remember what I was going to say for Ariel. So Ariel was saying how Chacham Lev means that you don't, not only do you, so Chacham is, let's just go with the basic definition here, okay? Chacham in Mishlei, and I feel like we talked about this in our morning Mishlei class recently, but I'm going to go ahead and quote the same one again. So Rashi defines Chacham at the beginning of Mishlei, where it says Ladas Chacham, no, where it says Yishma Chacham Yosef Lekach, a Chacham will hear and increase learning. See there it says Yosef, and will increase learning. And a Navon takbulis yakna, and the Navon will acquire strategies. So Rashi here, the one I quoted in Mishlei was Devarim 1:13, where Rashi says, nope, that's 13. Sorry, 1:13, or is it 1:11? 1:13. Rashi says Chachamim. This is no, there's not that one either. Sorry, I was not looking at Rashi before, and I was looking at the Minchas Shai. Let's try this again. There we go. Okay, yeah. Chacham is bal zed bal shmua. Chacham is someone who has received knowledge, so he knows ideas. But Navon is musaf al Chacham. He is increased on the Chacham. Sheodea lahavin davar mitok davar umosif al shmuaso. He can derive understanding of one matter from another and add to what he has accumulated from others. So in other words, Chacham means that you're I call it a Chacham like a dependent learner, where you are passive and you receive ideas, but a Navon is an independent learner or a creative thinker, where you can like extrapolate and come up with new ideas from what you've already learned. Okay, so based on that, I just branching off of what Ariel was saying, is a Chacham Lev is someone who not only has ideas, but applies them to his Lev, applies them to his emotions, applies them to his character traits, applies them to his decision-making. And that's the type of person who is going to become a Navon, because Navon, in order to derive one thing from another, so when you're in the realm of deduction, then that's pure logic. But when you're in the realm of induction, of svara, that requires intuition, and intuition can be swayed by your emotions. Okay, so in order to really become a Navon, it's not enough to have received ideas. You also need to have a certain emotional perfection of not letting your emotions interfere with your thinking. Okay, so that is for the first half. I'm just going to write that down before it flies away. Okay, so this is my take on Ariel's idea. Okay, is a Chacham is someone who has received knowledge and knows lots of ideas, but he's still dependent on his teachers and passive in his learning. Okay, a Navon is someone who not only has lots of ideas, but is an independent learner and a creative thinker, and can arrive at new knowledge based on what he already has. Okay. However, this requires intuition, and intuition can be influenced by your emotions. So in order to develop from a Chacham into a Navon, you need to be a Chacham Lev to apply. Sorry, to not just know the ideas of Mishlei, but to apply them to your own emotions and character traits. Yeah. Okay, so that's my idea for the first half, inspired by Ariel. Okay. Now the question is, so if you have any questions on that, let me know. But now let's, if not, let's go to the second half then and see if we can say this. Because I think what I'd like to do also, I think the other part I liked about Ariel's idea is it's saying that you need two things. You also need meforshim. And the question is, what does that add to this? And I would say that the subject here, let's say this here. Okay, the subject, sorry, I want to say the subject is how to develop from a Navon, sorry, from a chacham into a Navon. So can we get meforshim as a way to do that? Sweetness of speech. And the problem, just to articulate the problem. The problem is it sounds like sweetness of speech is something that involves other people, but you would think that the development occurs based on your own qualities. Yeah, Ariel?
Yeah, maybe you could say that, even for yourself, maybe it just means in you being able to express an idea that's clear, and it will be clear to you as well.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not just for other people. It's
yeah, I was thinking along similar lines. Yeah, that the sweetness of the lips has to do with the formulation of the idea. That in addition to this, you need to strive for a high degree of like clarity in your formulations.
Yeah, like I talk to myself all the time in the car, especially.
Yeah,
because there's nobody listening, and I could just I'm just joking, but
there's nothing to be ashamed about it with that. Yeah. Okay, so clarity in formulations. Yeah. So the question is why? I mean, we all recognize that clarity is an important quality for learning, but the question is why would this be necessary for, because let me state that. We all recognize the importance of clarity. Okay, but why would this be necessary to level up from a chacham to a navon?
Well, just another question is, remember, like the pasuk starts off with "He will be called a navon," meaning who's calling him a navon?
No, so the way I'm learning it is not that the point is not that people will call him a navon. The point is that he will become a navon, and like in other words, like let me think of an example here. And I realize that is a weak point of my idea, meaning that it would be nice if we had an idea that really factored in yikare.
Right. But I still have an answer to your question, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, like look. At the end of the day, a navon is someone who's understanding. If you can't get your ideas clear, then you don't really understand it.
Right. Or if you do, I mean, right. Even if you do, I mean, I haven't agreed with you. That's actually the what's the Einstein quote?
I don't know.
And barmaid. Barmaid. Yeah, it should be possible to explain the laws of physics to a barmaid. Okay, I guess barmaids were not very intelligent back then. Okay, yeah, meaning that you should, if you or the way that that we were taught in yeshiva is, if you can't say it clearly, then you don't understand it. Yeah. I guess what this is saying is, okay, at the very least, this is expressing that you do need a higher standard of intellectual clarity. Okay, to the point where you can formulate the idea clearly and convey it in a manner that its validity and beauty will be appreciated. Right. So I do think I do get a sense that is the case. But the question is like, why is that? Oh, here's the thing. Okay, I'm gonna try this other approach here. Okay, let's say why. Okay, so I'm not gonna exactly answer why, but like, tell me if you've had this experience. Okay, you are in a shiur, okay, and you understood the idea when it was being said, but then when you try to say it over, then it's not very clear. Versus when you develop your own idea then you can say it and it's very clear, you know? Like, I do think that there's a by default lower bar for receiving an idea, because in order to be persuaded, in order to like accept the validity of an idea that's said to you, you just need to hear it and it needs to register in your mind. But then it's easy to like just be satisfied with that layer of that level of clarity. But in order to come up with your own ideas that could stand on their own, then it needs a much higher degree of clarity. I'm just going to write that down because I do think that's an important observation here. Is in order to hear an idea, it just needs to register in your mind, but you don't necessarily need 100% clarity. Okay. But in order to develop a new idea, you know, you do need that. And then the experience example is, you know, listening to a shiur and following, but not being able to say over the idea, versus being able to really own your own idea and, you know, and teach it without even thinking. Yeah, Ariel?
Yeah, which is interesting because, like, you know, it's funny, in that example, you can really see this pasuk play out, because if you kind of think about it, when you listen to someone else's idea, you really have to remove your emotions and wanting to listen to this guy too.
Right.
You know, like, because like, oh, who the hell is he to tell me an idea that, you know, it's like I have to, like, there is an element of like I should have figured this out on my own, or like if he's like low class, then I have to listen to him, or like if you're in a shiur setting, maybe different because you're willingly going to be. But if it's like a guy who,
yeah,
you know, I could see a case like that.
Yeah. The ego definitely gets involved. Okay, so here's what I'm going to suggest. Let's look at some meforshim here, because I do think that some of the ones I want to look at are Metzudas David, Rabbeinu Yonah, and Meiri, and I think that they are not so far away from the approach that at least that Ariel and I are taking here. Okay, so I haven't read Metzudas David yet, actually, so I can only speak about Rabbeinu Yonah and Meiri. Okay, so Metzudas David, it's a fairly long one for Metzudas David. Metzudas David says, Lemisha lamar chachma mirabo sofu yikari Navon. Someone who learned chachma from his Rebbe will ultimately be called Navon, because he will make himself wise enough to derive understanding from you know, to derive, you know, understanding from through, you know, by inferring one matter from another. Okay, so that is taking the approach. I think that's taking the approach that I'm taking. I know he says he will be called, but I think it means that he will actually be able to do this, not just people will think he's Navon. So that deals with that. Okay, then we have sweetness is hamamtik amarim lezulas lema'an ye'arev lo lihios mekubal al halev. Okay, this is different. So he says one who sweetens his statements to another in order that they be pleasant to him, so that they will lihios mekubal al halev, so they would be accepted, acceptable to the heart. Yoil gam la'atzmo, sorry, heart. This will benefit him as well. Ki bazeh Yosef lilmod lahavin toch yusadavar, because it will increase his learning to understand the that's a very modern Hebrew. That's a modern Hebrew word. Toch yusadavar. Okay, the I literally internality, but there's got to be a better word for that. The heart of the matter. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what is he saying? So just to say pshat here, it sounds like he's saying, if you continue learning from your Rebbe, you will automatically become a Navon. Okay, that sounds like the first half is anyone who's learned Chacham from his Rebbe if he's mischakim, if he keeps on learning, making himself learn chachma, he's going to become a navon. Okay, that's automatic. Okay, so I think you actually have to put a but in there. But one who, not as that they're opposites, but it's like, but going further. Okay, so one who, yeah, he'll become a navon, but one who goes the extra mile to communicate his ideas, I guess to formulate his ideas in a manner that will be sweet to others and acceptable to them will be forced to learn at an even higher level, okay, and gain even more. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and quote here the observation. This is anecdotal, but I do think that this is true. I think if you look at the thing about all the chachamim, and you look at the chachamim who are teachers versus the ones who are just learners, I think you'll find typically that the teachers are clearer, okay, because they practice it. I don't think it's like a chiddush to say it. They practice it, and they also, because they're presenting it to others, and they have to present it in a way that's going to be heard, they have to understand the inner workings more to be able to like know how to present it, So the takeaway here, is that if you want to become a navon, okay, keep on learning from your Rebbe, okay, and I think the way that this works is Rav Pesach used the analogy once about how he used the analogy with seeds, is that he said that like when you first start off gardening, then like you can look at a plant and learn the difference between what a healthy plant looks like and an unhealthy plant. And then once you start planting stuff, you start to get a experience about which seeds grow into healthy plants and which seeds don't. But then at a certain point, you've seen so many examples of this that you can even tell by looking at the seeds, in some intuitive way, like just based on experience, what is going to be fruitful in turning into a plant and what's not. And so same thing with ideas is that when you start off, you're just learning ideas, but then the more good quality ideas you learn, the more your intuition develops, and then you'll be able to start seeing ideas and getting a sense of ideas on your own and being able to tell which intuitions will develop into ideas and which ones won't, and then you'll be able to formulate those and it'll go. So I think it is an automatic process according to this. I know that's contrary to my idea, but that's what Matsudas David is saying. But then keep learning from your Rebbe. But if you want to really excel, don't stop there. Okay, become a teacher. Okay, or at least teach the ideas to others, and focus on making them, acceptable and appealing, because that will force you to learn at a higher level. So that's a good, simple idea, but I think it fits the words in the puzzle really well. Okay, any other additions or thoughts or questions here?
Can I just interject that in real life,
yeah,
and in my getting to be in the olden days a brown belt in karate, you couldn't, after white belt, you had to be able to teach the white belts everything they need to know for the next level.
Yeah, it's a good system.
That example, works. Yeah, it does work, because you also come to a better understanding of what you just went through.
Definitely. Okay, so we're gonna do Rabbeinu Yonah. Now I put this into ChatGPT, but I'm gonna go ahead and translate it myself. Okay, so it might not exactly line up. L'chacham lev yikari Navon perish lanu hamachadish. Perish lanu. So he explains to us ki hamachadish b'sichlo divrei chachma, someone who innovates principles of chachma with his intellect. Umevin davar mitok davar yikari Navon. That person is called a Navon. So that's essentially what I defined as a Navon, is an independent learner and a creative thinker. He's machadish. He comes up with chidushim with his own mind, new ideas. Umesek safasayim Yosif lekach. So what does it mean? Sweetness of lips will increase learning. Yosif lechacham lev lekach. Oh, interesting. So it sounds like he's saying he will increase for the chacham lev learning, meaning he'll help the chacham lev learn even more. I think that's what he's saying. Yeah. Okay. So then he goes on. Ubira Inyan. The explanation is ki kamo shemachadish hanavon divrei chachma be'iyun of a machshava, that just as the navon innovates words of chachma in his analysis and his thought, King Yosef lekach kasher yivate divrei chachma bisfasav. so too he will increase the learning when he expresses the words of Chachma bisfasav verbally, shlo yachilu sfasav devarim me'urbavim o devarim nirpim v'chalushim, because his lips will not, I would say not tolerate, what does this say? His lips will not articulate, oh yachilu, that's a different way of saying, devarim me'urbavim will not articulate confused or weak ideas, v'yechazik hatainos v'yamritz hata'amim b'mivtas al sheshama v'hiskel mikol malamdav, and he will strengthen with his arguments and beautify his ideas, his reasoning through the expression of his lips, based on what he has heard and comprehended from his teachers. Okay, I'll summarize this after I go through the whole thing. I don't see the full picture yet. So the sweetness of the lips is him making sweet his explanations of the matter. It says about the wicked, oh, he's saying the opposite here, maybe. If you sweeten evil with your mouth. Midas harashayim b'mesh mosifim chizuk bisfasayim al machshavas harashayim. I don't know if this is talking about in Eov or later on in Mishlei. It mentions the trait of the wicked and how they strengthen their thoughts through their speech. Okay, so let's summarize first before we get the idea. So summary is a Navon is a creative, independent thinker who innovates new insights. And he will increase the learning of the Chacham Lev. Okay, and second half is saying that what is he saying? By talking out his innovations and making sure that there are no points of confusion or weak spots, and by strengthening his reasoning or his reasons, then he will increase the learning of the Chacham Lev. And then the wicked do the opposite. They don't, not only do they not strengthen ideas, sweeten ideas, but they sweeten evil. Yeah, I'm following the phenomena he's talking about the Chacham Lev, the Navon being an innovator and like sweetening it for others, but I'm not getting how he's learning the pasuk. I mean, it almost sounds a little bit like the Mitzvahs David was saying about like he has like a good filtration system that he doesn't allow. In other words, if he's just innovating in his own mind, then that's not necessarily going to bring him to a level of clarity or expose the weak spots. But if he also teaches the Chacham Lev, then he'll gain more out of his own innovations and it'll develop him even further. I mean, that part is definitely true. I don't know if that's what he's saying, but I'm going to write it down, is that similar to Metzudas David, if a Navon keeps his ideas to himself, he might still be a Navon, okay? But if he works on presenting his ideas to a Chacham Lev, this will force him to a higher degree of clarity and expose any weak points in his ideas, and he'll benefit, and the Chacham Lev will benefit. But the wicked do the opposite by giving greater clarity and appeal to wickedness. And if you need an example, just look around you at American society and the glorification of any of the bad values that the Torah has. Our society doesn't just tolerate that, but actually like gives it further articulation and creates a whole culture around it and like makes it appealing, so like they're driving people further into that. So the takeaway is, I think, similar, which is you should teach if you want to be a great Navon, you should teach Chachamim, and that will force you to greater clarity, and it'll repeat the cycle, because then the Chacham Lev will also become a Navon, and then it'll repeat itself. And if you want to become a good Rasha, a bad Rasha, then articulate your wickedness, and it'll perpetuate itself. Yeah, Ayala?
Are you at the end adding a point about how like the social aspect makes the idea a reality of like when you share it with someone else, or are you just saying
I actually
that,
wasn't
like,
adding that, but that is true. I'll add that here. Okay, is the making the idea, I guess, taking the idea, okay, whether it's chachma or evil, and expressing it to others makes it a social reality, which amplifies it and perpetuates the cycle, for good or for bad. Yeah. And I'll just say, again, I know I've said this example before, but like ever since I started recording my shiurim and putting them out there, that subjects them to critical, examination. But specifically in writing my Torah ideas, I really think, I know people get intimidated by writing, but I think that it'd be beneficial for yeshiva and seminary students to get into the habit early on of writing their ideas and presenting them to the public, because you'll get people who ask you questions if it's not clear, or pointing out mistakes if you have mistakes or weak points. Okay, really quickly, this Meiri, and then I want to stop for tonight. So he says, again, this is ChatGPT, so I'm just going to translate on my own. All of this is an insight or a lesson to the perfected person to share from, bestow his chachma to others. That is the highest level of perfection of chachma. That's what it means when it says the chacham lev will be called a navon. Okay, so he says chacham lev is someone who is only, the chacham is only in his heart, without expressing it to others, sharing it with others. Klomar shelo yichasu lo shem chacham shalem ad shiruhu mashpia. So this is not what, slightly different than what I said to Ariel. This is a lower level than a regular chacham. At least chacham lev means he's a chacham that he keeps it to himself. Okay, and then it says umesek sefasayim klomer kishiyashpil izlaso, when he shares it with others. Lo sof davar shiyashlim geder chachmaso v'hashpaso. Not only will he complete the definition of chachma for himself by sharing it with others, shagamhu ba'atzmo yosif lekach, he'll also increase for himself. Ki al kopanim hotzaaso befel l'lamid l'zulaso yoel harbe l'zachranus. By sharing with others, he'll have a better memory of it. And he'll sharpen his intellect to be able to respond to those who ask questions. It's funny, he kind of didn't explain Yikari Navon. Oh, he does it here. Yikari Navon. Oh, no. So it looks like he was saying he was explaining it earlier. It sounds like he's just saying you'll be called a Navon, meaning you'll be called the highest level of Chacham. He's not distinguishing between Mavin Davar, Mitok Davar, like understanding one thing from another. Yeah. Okay. I actually just want to summarize this tonight and stop for now. But it's interesting. We had, it seems like all of the meforshim we did led to the same takeaway, which is if you want to become the best intellectually perfected person you can, then you should teach. Whether it is because of Metzudas David that you'll be forced to a higher level of clarity, in a vague way, or Rabbeinu Yonah, that you'll be able to spot the weak points and strengthen the strong points, or like Ayala said, to like strengthen it as a social reality for others, or the Meiri, who did not really say, oh yeah, he did say how you'll remember it more, which is also true. I definitely remember stuff that I teach more than stuff that I just learn, and also sharpening your intellect. And then we had my idea and Ariel's idea, which is a slightly different track, which is to become a Navon. See, Ariel and I were really, everything that the meforshim were saying, we were putting into the second half of the pasuk. But if you're going to say chacham lev is another ingredient, then it means that you need to be a chacham vis-a-vis your lev, which means that you have to work on your emotions also. And it's not, Navon is not just an intellectual development, it's a midos development. or let me put it this way, it requires a Venus development because you have to keep your emotions out of the thought process. And in order to do that, you have to have certain self-knowledge and mastery of your emotions. So this is, I guess, a machlokus. Let me just put this here as an open question between us and Metzudas David. Okay, is the development from Chacham to Navon automatic and intellectual and purely intellectual? Sorry, purely intellectual, or do you need to work on your emotional perfection as well? Yeah. Okay, so that's what we were saying. And then we had Tamar's idea, which is about emotional intelligence and something about the ability to converse with people in a way that is pleasant. Somehow both those are going to make you into a Navon, or give you the reputation of a Navon. And Ayala suggested that maybe the reputation fits better here. And I do think that that's true, is that if you have this emotional intelligence and you are good at conveying ideas to others or conversing with them in ideas, you will be viewed as a Navon, even if you're not necessarily a Navon, because people will be impacted by your Chachma and they'll assume that you're smarter or more knowledgeable than you actually are. And then Isaiah was talking about also Chacham Leva's self-knowledge, and you'll be viewed as a Navon, and it has to do with working on yourself in that way and having that development, which people realize is hard, and you do need knowledge for it. And then another benefit is also how you converse with people, but I feel like we didn't fully develop that. And then Ayala had this idea that I suggested paired with that, is that Mesek is necessary for increasing knowledge. Mesek meaning working with people and developing their ideas instead of like shooting them down or being overly harsh and shutting down communication. But we didn't develop a first half according to that. Okay, fruitful pasuk. I mean, it's very odd, I feel like, for us to see the meforshim being so aligned with each other, but very fundamental thing. I mean, we all want to become a Navon, right? And I think we have clear message from the meforshim here, is that you should all teach, you should all write, and be clear. Yeah. Okay, it's good for tonight. And I will let you know whether I'm going to leave shiur next week. I have to decide probably on Sunday. Okay. All right. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.